here at Bionic Buzz, we're all about people's passion. I want to know where your passion for music came from. Was it a certain album you heard, a live performance you saw, or something natural for you as a child?
My mother likes to say I was singing before I could talk.
Oh,
she
nice.
put me on the table as a baby. She said, you were always doing that. So it's just something I've always done. And I started working professionally when I was really young. And it's the only job I've ever had. It's what I've done all my life. So it's just a thrill to be able to do that. For every time I get out of bed, I go, look at that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So,
I heard a lot of music in my home as I was growing up, and it was just a natural transition. By the time I was 12, I was being paid to sing.
So I see your photo. You're always wearing this cool top hat in the photos and stuff. So
very cool. Yes, world goes around. I had a lot of crazy hats in those days, and I still wear hats a lot.
That's cool.
In those days, they were tall hats.
Yeah, I like that. Very captured, because I think these photos are from '89, right? So I guess explain the history, because it was kind of dubbed the killer LA supergroup that never was, you know?
Yeah. We were all working with different artists. Marty was a studio session musician. I think we met recording a John Denver record, and then ended up doing some television with John Denver. He and I with John, and ended up back at the house with Frank Musker, who's an amazing songwriter, an amazing talent. And we all started working together with Jeff Hull, the piano player, who had written Piano in the Dark for Brenda Russell. That was a big hit, and that was everywhere at the time. When you turn on the radio, you hear Piano in the Dark, Brenda Russell. So all four of us ended up together and just started writing, and the rest is world goes round. We put this album together, and then we all kept working with other artists and went our own separate ways. But we were very devoted to this. And we added Tommy Vicari, the amazing engineer, to this. It gave it a unique sound, I think.
Yeah, it really captures that. So it got recorded and never got released, and now it's finally released? Or what was the story behind that?
Crazy. Marty ended up moving back to the East Coast to Boston, where he's a professor at Berklee College of Music and guitar, yes. And he was going through some old cassettes, and he found a copy of it and started listening to it. And he was in contact with Tommy Vicari, the engineer, and they started trading notes on it. And he got a hold of Frank, and the three of them just said, it sounds as good today as it ever did. Now this is mixed from a cassette. It's not, we don't even know where the tapes. Well, I think one has surfaced anyway. This is mixed from the cassette, a little bit of tweaking EQ, a little compression, but it sounds just as good. And so they were very excited to get in touch with Jeff and I. And so here we are 30 years later, and it sounds very contemporary, and the subject matter is still as relevant. So
yeah, I mean, it sounds like $1 million. You can definitely tell it was produced and recorded at a really high-end place. I think it was somewhere in Laurel Canyon, right?
In Laurel Canyon. Yeah. Frank had a studio there with 150-foot redwood in the middle of it. I mean, like you could lean on it,
Wow.
It's great. And that house still exists. Somebody found a picture that's on our website, which I'm going to shamelessly plug, worldgoesround.info, and you can actually see the tree. And that was an amazing creative place in Laurel Canyon. The Eagles wrote tunes in Laurel Canyon.
There's a big music. Is it a music scene or music history, would you describe, I guess, Laurel Canyon?
It's all of the above. There's history there in that area. It was very creative. And we were always in and out working on different projects for different artists and bouncing off of each other, getting ideas. Anyway, that studio really inspired us in many ways. And that's where we laid down most of the basic tracks for the album.
Very cool. It really does capture the fun 80s kind of rock vibe, especially on Rebel Heart, the keyboards and the drum sound. I assume that's you singing on it too, was it?
That's me, all over that. And the drums on that one in particular, that's Jeff Hull playing the drums, bass, and all the keyboards.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. It's just great.
I love this. This is very inspiring at 30 years later. So, I mean, I guess before the whole COVID-19 thing was there a plan to like perform together? Are you guys spread out in Boston, LA, or over the country?
Question, the COVID-19 thing has really changed a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and we were in touch with one another before this really took off, this whole thing with the pandemic. But we thought it should just be heard again. And as we were going through cassettes, I found one here, a couple more songs, 3 more songs. We realized we had enough for a whole album, and we thought it was important to press it. We ultimately will have a vinyl album. And we're releasing our first single, Big House, Friday this week, May 29th.
Oh, very cool.
May 29th. But then this happened, so now we're doing this all, you know, over phone and all, and we'll see what happens. But I think initially the thought was we could get it heard and maybe play some of the music in film or somewhere, because it's very evocative, you know. And 80s music 90s music is really popular right now.
Yeah, I love that it's kind of coming back, you know. I
is.
grew up as a teenager in the 90s, and
a
lot of younger rockers
exactly
like that style, you know.
Yeah, what's that new movie, the Goofy movie? It's full of that sound, you know.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? And but it started about 5 years ago with Guardians of the Galaxy and all those tunes, the mixtape.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know what a cassette tape was. You know? That was my favorite thing. Everybody, like as a teenager, was going away on a weekend. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a mixtape that's like my favorite songs during this time. You know,
exactly.
Try to get into a mixes. One song goes into the next perfectly, like a radio.
Steve, it's all back. It's all back.
Yes.
Yeah. Very cool.
So, you're obviously a very talented musician. What else have you been up to? Is any other projects or anything you work for? Anything you've done in the past years we should know about? You know.
Here, I did a lot of studio work in Los Angeles, a lot of animation. I understand you've done some animation too.
Yeah. I did an animated web series, comic book. That was also
very cool.
A documentary about it. So it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, but you were wearing a lot of hats.
Do you do the voiceover or actual like artwork, writing?
I got into doing animation because of my singing and singing parts, especially, and so many cartoons are swung, the theme songs, you know.
Yes.
And so they need a ringer in there because you can't really write that down on the page. You got to know how to swing, and jazz was always my first great love, and
nice.
So I started doing that and layering tracks and on Animaniacs and all sorts of cartoons. And somebody said, you know, hey, we need a concerned dog owner. Can you do that, Elizabeth? And I was already on the microphone. I said, sure, I can do that. The next thing I'm doing voiceover too. And it was a really good run that I had with that. I always was singing in clubs though. I was always singing with big bands and small ensembles. The ensembles have gotten smaller because of the money, which is all changed. Performing live is really a labor of love these days, and not much cash in it. In the 80s and 90s, there was money to be made singing in clubs, and now that's really shifted with the internet.
Yeah, I'm hoping it kind of comes back. I think people might say like, oh, I kind of regret not going to more concerts before this all happened. So I'm hoping but yeah, it is a shame though. I know a lot of musicians, friends are just, it's hard to perform live because it is, like you said, a labor of love. So
it's a labor of love, and but I still do it as often as I can. But with the COVID-19, every gig I had on the books is gone for now.
Yeah.
And with any luck, we get back to that. But you know, a live band with energy breathing on you in a club, that may You can't do it in the
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think. I don't know where live performance will go. I'm sure it will come back, but it may be different for a while anyway. You know, we'll see.
Well, thank you so much, and plug your website and band name, because I think I screwed it up earlier in the interview.
The world goes round, and it's easy to do because all our songs, the world or the globe is in there somewhere, almost every song. So World Goes Round is the name of the band, and if you go to worldgoesround.info, you can see the new video. We're very excited about the video for Big House.
Would you ever do like animated music videos? Think about animation or music together, yeah?
We have discussed it. We'll see. We'll see. We've got our second video in the making. We're very excited about it. And on that website, you can read all about us, see all these great pictures of 80s, 90s clothes, crazy hats and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, contact us or find out what we're up to next.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. What a great interview. You're so talented.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. You know, world goes round.
Yes.
We're excited. Thank you.